Live from the Glasgow Electric Plant Board, Glasgow Wants to Know. With your host, Mr. Uhel Barrickman.
As most of you know, and those of you who don't should know, we have an election this fall for 3 members of the Glasgow Board of Education. For those 3 members, we have 4 candidates. We're fortunate in having all 4 candidates here tonight so that we can discuss with them whatever issues may be involved in the campaign for the 3 positions. On my immediate left, I have Larry Jenkins. To his left, I have Mike Bryant. To his left, I have Jerry Ream. And to his left, I have Dr. Phillip Bale. I will start with you, Larry, and ask you to give a brief history background, brief educational background, and a brief family background.
All right. Like Mr. Barrickman said, my name is Larry Jenkins. I graduated from Glasgow High School in 1970 and attended Western Kentucky University. In '73, I bought Decorator Supply, where I'm now still there. I have a wife, Vicki, who also graduated from Glasgow High School. I have 4 lovely daughters. One of them is a junior at Murray State University. I have 2 daughters that are seniors this year, and I have 1 daughter that is a sophomore this year. That's
Mike, you're next.
Thank you. I was born and raised in East Tennessee and went to school there in East Tennessee at the East Tennessee State University. Graduated there with a degree in music education. After graduation, I married my wife, Donna. We have 3 children, Jeremy, who's in his first year at the University of Kentucky, and Natalie, who's at the high school here in Glasgow, and Jonathan at the middle school. I taught at school for about 5 years upon graduation. I was a high school band director and enjoyed that very much, and later had an opportunity to go in the insurance business and have been in that business for 19 years now.
Jerry?
Well, after graduating from high school in 1959, I attended and graduated the University of Kentucky in 1963. Went into the U.S. Army for a couple of years on active duty and subsequently continued my military background in the Kentucky National Guard, retiring in 1989. In 1969, I went to work at my current employment with MetLife and have been so employed for the last 25 years. Was married in 1976 to Glenda Williams, and we have 2 children, Tony, who this past summer graduated from Western, and Andrea, a sophomore at Glasgow High School. And that's about it.
Dr. Bale?
Uhel, I'm a native of Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Graduated from Elizabethtown High School in 1968, at which time I went to college at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin. Graduated there in 1972. I met my future wife and sweetheart at Wisconsin, Kristen. We married in 1972 when I entered medical school at the University of Kentucky. We spent 4 years in Lexington. I finished medical school in 1976 and then did a 3-year residency in family practice in Roanoke, Virginia. Finished that in 1979 and located to Glasgow at that time, and have spent my entire professional career as a family physician here in Glasgow. Kristen and I are the proud parents of 4 children. The oldest is Taylor, who is a recent graduate of Glasgow High School. Lindsay, who is a junior at Glasgow High School. Megan, who has just started her freshman year at Glasgow High School. And Garnet, who moved up from South Green Elementary to the new middle school this year.
You are presently a member of the Board of Education for the Glasgow Independent District and chairman of the board. Why do you desire to continue?
Uhel, I was first elected in 1986, so this is the third term that I am running for. I remember well in 1986 answering a questionnaire at that time as to why you wanted to run, and of course my four major reasons then were my children, and even though one is a graduate, they're still my major reasons for wanting to be on the board. But I've always had a deep interest in education and the effect that it has not only on my own children but on the community and the state at large. And I feel committed to the Educational Reform Act, and I would like to participate in it for a while longer.
Jerry, you are also presently a member of the board. Why do you desire to continue?
Well, Uhel, as a lifelong resident of the city of Glasgow, like many people, there's a lot of reasons. The quality of life that we have here in Glasgow that our family has benefited from, it seems to me like as a citizen of Glasgow, it's continuing to serve on the school board is just a way of giving back some of the elements and resources that this community has, a way of turning back, if you will. And like Dr. Bale says, I still have a child that's a member that goes to the high school, and that's a primary reason.
Mike, why do you desire to join this august body?
Well, my family and I moved here 7 years ago, and one of the reasons we moved to Glasgow was because of the school system. I had the opportunity to look across the state when I was preparing to make the move, and we chose Glasgow because of the atmosphere that we could raise our children in and the good reputation that the school system had at that time. And of course, my reason for wanting to be a member of the school board are, first, my two children that are still here. Jeremy graduated last year, went on to UK, but Natalie and Jonathan are still there. And that's my two precious reasons for wanting to be. Another reason, of course, is I have a great interest in academics. My degree was in education. I appreciate teachers. I appreciate what school does for our children. I have a real excitement and appreciation for the extracurricular activities that the school system offers. And I just would like to see this excellent school system get even better in the years to come, and hopefully I can be a part of that.
Larry, you're also presently on the board. Why do you desire to continue?
Well, I got involved in the education system mainly through being a band parent. I've been a band parent for 7 years, and during that time I have seen a lot of changes, a lot of good changes in the Glasgow school system. It made me have a desire to be more of a part of it. That's why I ran for election 4 years ago. I am very committed to the facilities that we have. I'm very proud of our new middle school. I was able to be on the board when that facility started. We have 2 or 3 more major projects that we would love to do if financing is available. So my main goal is to help with the facilities. I feel like the area of employment that I'm in qualifies me for that, and I'm looking forward to helping the school system in that way.
Now, you mentioned 2 main goals, that 2 projects you'd like to see finished. What are they?
Well, the first main project is E.B. Terry. It was built some 30 years ago. It's becoming outdated. I'm sure the public is aware of what type of building it is. It has outside hallways, which is not really good for this type of climate. It's a deteriorating building, and that's one of our main goals in the future, is to remodel or rebuild E.B. Terry School.
You mentioned another one. What's the other one?
I would like to see the high school updated. We have a facility plan in progress now where we have a committee. In fact, they're meeting tonight. The new Education Reform Act mandated a facility committee that's composed of some 20 members of the community. They're visiting the schools, and they are compiling a list of what needs to be done. One of the things on the list will be upgrading the high school. We're going through some heating and air conditioning problems, ventilation problems, that's going to be worked out in an energy grant that we're now receiving.
Mike, if you're elected, what will be your goals?
I think my first and most important goal would be to be a good listener. I think that's very important in a public position, and that I would want to be a good listener for our teachers, for our parents, for our students, for the citizens in Glasgow, so that I could be well informed on how they see the need of our school system, what they think about our school system. And I think that would be a very, very important challenge for me to undertake just in being a public servant.
Jerry?
Well, I think certainly one of our primary goals, or one of my primary goals as a board member, is to continue the oversight of CARA and its implementation. CARA, as most people know, has come under some fire in recent years. I think perhaps there's some good things about CARA, and it's our board's responsibility to implement the provisions of CARA and perhaps offer some constructive ideas on improving it and fine-tuning it to our schools. However, I think as equally as important as CARA, and certainly one of the provisions of it, is to encourage parental involvement. That's a primary goal of our education. In other words, the more parents become involved in their children's education, the better it'll be. Parents can get involved through the site-based councils or simply by motivating their children at home. And so I would hope to further encourage that parental involvement.
We'll get back to Kara shortly.
Fine.
Dr. Bale, what would you like to?
Well, I like all their answers, and I think they're all good. Goal setting is certainly an important function, both for us to have as individuals, but also as a board. In 1990, we established a strategic planning committee, whose function was to formulate goals for our school system. We had approximately 10,000 volunteer hours put in on that project, which involved 40 or 50 members, most of whom were from the community in one fashion or another, and in fact anyone in the community had the opportunity to serve on that if they so wished. That was an excellent process. They gave us about 4 years worth of goals to strive for, most of which we have attained or are in the process of attaining. We also have in the works right now to reinstitute the whole process again with strategic planning, again involving as many members and groups from the community as we can. And so in terms of goal setting, I think as a board that's something that we need to continue to encourage and foster. But like Jerry says, I think that we have to do all of that, maintaining the law and the ideals of CARA, and make those two processes dovetail, and I think we've done that, and hopefully we'll continue to do that.
As chairman of the board, would you mind commenting on the financial condition of the district?
Well, as you know, certainly one of the primary functions of the Board of Education concerns the budgetary matters that belong to such an organization, and I would not dare to present myself as an expert on all the figures, but with CARA and with the SEEK formula, Seeking Educational Excellence in Kentucky, there is an equalizing aspect to that I think the public probably is not real aware of. And whereas the majority of our funds still come from Frankfort, there is a growing dependence and need for local support and funding, particularly if you're going to augment the basic curriculum. Kentucky, as you know, is not a wealthy state, and even though Our legislators did commit greater funds, public funds, to education. We certainly are not and will not be flush in funds. We, I think, run a lean, mean ship, and I think to be successful today, you have to do that.
Now, Jerry, in one sense the word is leading into something that you said a moment ago. You're talking about the need for more parents to be involved, and he just brought up the matter of there's going to be a greater dependence on local taxation and support for schools as we go down the road, and indicated, or at least the way I interpreted Dr. Bale's answer, that the public probably wasn't as much aware of that as it should. What effort is being made to make the public more aware of that, and do you have any ideas of what should be done in that regard?
Well, I think one thing that we're attempting to do now, Uhel, is to notifying the public, certainly through our local media. Our school board has weekly articles in the local newspapers to keep people abreast of the situation at schools and to further inform the public. You know, one thing that I might point out too, that we have a resource for funding locally is our local Glasgow Education Foundation. You know, foundations are the lifeblood of a lot of colleges. They solicit and actively encourage tax-deductible donations from their alumni, from estates, and so forth. And this is a source of funding over and above taxation, and from people who have the wherewithal to make contributions to the school system. I think it's a great resource that we have already in place in the Glasgow school system. I think by further encouraging that and making more about our foundation known, we can adequately subsidize our school funding to areas that taxes would not address. So it's not all taxes. It can be accomplished to a great degree by greater awareness of our educational foundation, I feel.
Mike, what do you see or in the system as it exists today that may need improvement or could be better, and what ideas do you have to do that in the event that you become a member of the board?
One of the things that interests me greatly is the rating of our academic performance with our students. I'm very pleased to read and hear about the recent testing that our schools did so very well in under the CARE Act. However, I would like to see us in the future continue to prepare our students to do well on the tests that they take and then move on into college. In other words, make them more prepared for that move to college or into a vocation after high school. I also would like to see more done with our extracurricular activities. I really believe heavily in our band and in our athletics and in our drama and all of those things that the students do. I found that that is a learning experience also. And so I would like to see those continue. I'd like to see those broadened. I'd like to see more opportunity for those extracurricular activities. I think that they do more than just play football or more than just play in the band. They get a real education for life in sharing with kids and learning discipline and learning manners and the things that are important, I think, in developing one's own self-attributes for life. I also feel that one of the things I would like to see in our system is the better facilities. I'm so very proud of our middle school, and it's a beautiful facility, a very modern facility. But when I speak of bettering the facility, I think about technology and how fast and how quickly it's moving. And again, I think our school system has done an excellent job in staying with the computers and all the advanced technology that's there. But I'd really like to see us concentrate on keeping up that we can't afford to get behind in the technology realm. I think if we do, our students will fall short, and we can't let that happen.
Brought up a matter of testing, which seems to be a current subject throughout the state, both pro and con. And I read, and I don't think this occurs in the Glasgow system. I have no knowledge of it if it does, and I certainly hope not. But I read that some systems are preparing students mainly for the test. That's what they're teaching for, is to make good on the test. Do you approve of that or disapprove of that?
I disapprove if that's their primary goal, to see that a student does well on a test. There's much more to education than doing well on a test. Some students aren't good test takers, and so there need to be other measuring sticks that we use for the ability of that student. I think that there's much more to education than just testing. However, I think testing is important. You have to have a way to measure the success of the student and the success of our educational system. But there are other ways other than testing. I think we measure it with our students' abilities as they go into the universities, and we look and see the students and how well they've been accepted in the schools. And we look at the kids who, after high school, decide to go into vocation. You know, I think it's much more important that we prepare our students for life than we just prepare them for a test.
Uhel, can any of us interject, or
Yes,
you
sir.
want to go down the
No,
line?
go ahead.
I have a few thoughts on testing too, and certainly it's a necessary part of the whole accountability process. You have to have tests, and there'll always be students who are good test takers and some who aren't. But let's not forget, there is no substitute for knowledge, and I am not aware and do not think that our teachers are teaching students how to take a test, other than with CARA you have a whole different mode of testing, and the process is now emphasizing thinking skills. And so I think, you know, they are certainly addressing those things, but I think with CARA it's probably much more difficult to teach a student what material may be on the test. What's important is to teach critical thinking skills, and I think that's what our teachers are doing. And like Mike, I'm very proud of our test scores, and I think for those of the public who studied the CARAS test results, it's obvious that the Glasgow students at all levels and in all buildings performed quite well. And even though we won't have the final test scores until January, I'm confident that we're going to see Glasgow Independent School District rank near the top of the state in terms of those test scores. Another measure is certainly looking at your national standardized tests like the SAT and the ACT. And if you look at those figures, you'll also see that not only does Glasgow have a higher percentage of students taking that test in their student body, but those test scores are also consistently above not only Kentucky averages but the national average, and that's not a Lake Wobegon effect. Those are real numbers, and I think those are numbers that our community needs to know and needs to feel proud of, because that's a reflection not only on our school system and our teachers and students, but it's a reflection on the home environment and the parents too. And Glasgow's done a good job for a long time, and we're continuing to do a good job in that regard.
You have any ideas about testing, Larry?
I was going to add, the test, I have not seen an actual test, but what we've been told, these are not just ordinary tests. They're not true and false questions. They're not all multiple choice questions. Most of these tests have a lot of open-ended questions, which makes the student really think before he answers the question, which makes it more difficult.
Essay-type questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's not just a simple ABCD answer.
One of the criticisms that some people are making about that is that you don't find out whether they have learned the math skills and so forth, and that it's difficult to compare Kentucky now with tests in other states. I'm sure some of you or all of you have read about that, and there is a movement in the state to do something about it. Is that a valid criticism, in your opinion?
I don't think
And
it
I'm
is.
going to get to you, Jerry.
Okay.
I don't think it is in the Glasgow school system. I think the results are very valid. The students are to be commended on their achievements.
Jerry?
I think I agree with Larry. I think our students in the elementary or primary grades are being taught the basics. You know, I might add to what Larry and Dr. Bale have said, and that is, as a parent, you know, parents are encouraged to go by their schools, look at these tests, sample questions, and then decide for themselves if their children are being properly tested. I know I went and looked at some of the sample questions of a fourth grader, and I don't know if I could have done very well as a fourth grader on that myself back in my day, but these children are learning at a higher level. And like I said previously, there's obviously some areas that need to be fine-tuned and improved upon, but that's the way it is with anything that's new. You're going to have to improve on it and to get it to an acceptable standard.
Let me emphasize what they both already said too, in that the basics are being taught. In fact, that's a given. A child has to know how to add and subtract and multiply and divide, and those things are going on as much as they ever were. It may be a little different matter of going about it, but the feedback that we've gotten as a board, and we meet periodically with our not only central office staff but principals, and the feedback that we're getting is that our teachers feel like this is working. And I'm not going to say 100% of our teachers, but the majority do, and we feel like that they are learning the facts. And I think it'd be pretty hard to answer any question unless you've got the basic knowledge down.
Well, getting back somewhat to what Mike said some few minutes ago, and I observed this many years ago when I was in school, you had students that could work formulas in math and physics and chemistry and so forth, but they couldn't communicate about it. And if you can't, it doesn't make any difference, as all of you know, it doesn't make any difference what you learn if you can't communicate it once you get out there. You've got to be able to communicate it, and I think if I may get one of my thoughts in here, I think that one of the shortcomings of education in Kentucky over the years has been the lack of teaching students how to communicate, both verbally and by writing.
Of course, that is one of the other goals of CARA.
That's one of the other goals of CARA, but that is being criticized, the way I read it, it's being criticized very much in various parts of Kentucky. And I don't think, I know from personal experience, and you know as a doctor, and all of you know in your business, unless you can communicate, you're not going to be able to get anywhere.
Not only communicate, but work in a group.
Right, that's true. And we've been talking about the need for parents' participation. Is there good participation by the parents in the Glasgow school system?
Well, I think it's. Are you asking that of Mike or just
I'm
anybody?
asking it to all four of you.
All right. Well, I think to a certain degree there is, but this is a new aspect of parents being involved with their children's education. We're asking them to become more active and in fact ask questions themselves as to what they can do.
But are they doing it? I know you're asking it. My
Yes.
question is, are they doing it?
Well, to a greater degree now, yes, I feel they are, but not really to the degree where they could be. And that's the challenge, one of the challenges and one of the goals that I think our board and in school district is addressing. How they can become more active in just exactly what to do, whether it be motivating the child at home or becoming actively involved in the school process themselves through the site-based councils and so forth.
As an outsider, what do you see, Mike?
Well, I asked Dr. Tennant that question about the involvement of parents, because I think it is critical that we as parents become more involved in the school system, especially with all the changes. We need to be educated ourselves on what our children are learning and what they're being taught. And I think just a good common desire from parents to want to know more is very important. I was very impressed and have been impressed with our principals and our school systems when they have the open house at their schools. And they invite all the parents to come in. And I was really impressed with the great number of parents who attended those open houses. I, having kids in all three last year, got to make 3 different schools. And in seeing that and seeing the participation, I was very pleased. However, I think this is a part of the CARA that we still aren't up to par on. That CARA wants parental involvement. We have site-based decision councils, but I'm not sure that the public is comfortable enough at this point with CARA, with our education reform, to come out and take a part. And so I would just encourage all parents at any level not to be afraid of the system, but to desire to know more and learn more about where our children are being taught. And I think that's what the system wants.
You'll, having been on the board for 8 years, I have maybe a little different perspective even than the other gentlemen do, in that I can recall 8 years ago, after being elected to the board, going to one of our schools as a newly elected board member, very earnest and eager to learn, and being made to feel rather unwelcome being there. And I can tell you that that would not happen today. And I think we have improved light years from where we were. We've still got room to improve further, but as Mike said, if you look at the open houses that we're having, encouraging parents to come, our PTO organizations are much stronger now than they were 8 years ago or even 4 years ago. Happy Valley Elementary being a great example of that. They have like 700 members for a student population of 180 or something. It's quite a feat that they've done. So there have been real efforts to involve the community. I don't think I've been to any school where the principal spoke in the last several years where they didn't make a point of telling people that they were welcome to come and encouraging them to. So we do recognize parental involvement as being a key issue for the success of the children. One of the things I learned recently was that the primary determinant for a child's success in school was the educational level that his or her mother attained. So I think it's clear that parental interest in education has a great bearing on a child's success, and hopefully we can find other ways of trying to improve on that.
Larry, have you had any problems insofar as you know of getting members to serve, and I'm talking about parents now, to serve on site-based councils?
I don't believe there's been any problems. If my memory serves me right, I think by 1995, is that right, Phillip?
I believe it's 1996.
96.
Okay, all of the schools in Kentucky are supposed to go site-based. Now, we presently have 2 working on the 3rd one. Glasgow High School has been a little slow in getting some involvement on their site-based. We've got a site-based council there. Haven't had as many candidates, I think, as they would like to have. But we do have support there, and I think that's working out fine. We've got a good council out there. I might add too while I go about the parental involvement. I'm out a whole lot during the day, and there's not many days go by that I don't pop in one of the schools. My children are old enough, they're in high school. It's been a long time since I've had anybody in elementary school. I spend a lot of time at South Green and popping in, listening to the teachers. It's it warms your heart. encourage all parents, not all at one time, but they need to stop by and visit their schools. The teachers themselves want the parents to come by and see what's going on.
I take it from comments that each of you have made, and correct me if the statement I'm about to make is not correct, but I take it that each of you is in favor and like Kara.
Yes, sir.
Is that a fair statement?
Well, that's a fair generalized statement. I think all of us would say that there are aspects of it that we like more than others, and I, for one, think that the site-based councils probably has been the weakest, most disappointing aspect of it to date. I think all of us would like to see 10 parents running when there's an election up for that, and we've not had that, and I don't think any districts in Kentucky have had much stampeding going on to get on the site-based councils. We actually have 3 schools now that are up with it, E.B. Terry having started last year after South Green in the high school, and we hope that our other 2 schools will do it within the next year, and they have to do it by '96. But Kara as a whole, I think, is good, and I think if you took a poll of our teachers and educators and said, would you like to go back to the way things were before Kara, I believe that a strong majority would vote to plow ahead and continue on with the ideals and purposes of Kara.
I think Kara is here. I think it's here to stay, and I'm optimistic about that. However, I do think that we need to pay a lot of attention, especially in these growing years with Kara, to our teachers, to our parents, to our students. And then I think Jerry used the term fine-tune, and I think that's what we need to do. We need to be in there watching, observing, listening to our teachers, getting feedback. And if there's something that's working great, that's wonderful. Let's improve on it. If there's something that's not working, that doesn't mean we have to continue to do it, I think. Let's work together and find out where the shortfalls are and then work to improve on those. But I think there are definitely improvements needed in Kara.
One of the issues, and it is in litigation at this time, is over the control or lack of control that the board has over site-based management councils, whether the board should have more control or exactly what control it does have. And I'm sure that those of you who are now on the board have experienced some of these questions already.
I think,
and I'd like comments.
well, I think you have to realize the basis of the Board of Education. The Board of Education is an elected body responsible to the taxpayers, the citizenry of the Board of Education area. And so the liability and responsibility lies with that board, we people who are on the board and those who will be on it. Conversely, the site-based councils are responsible for individual schools, the curriculum and so forth. They're responsible, the building itself. But in my view, the site-based council needs to operate under the guidelines of the School Board of Education. Once again, our board is responsible to the citizenry, whereas the site-based council is not an elected body like the board.
I certainly concur with Jerry in the case you're mentioning is occurring in Boone County, and we're all anxiously awaiting to hear the appeal of that. Of course, it revolves primarily around budgetary matters, and I think site-based councils certainly need to have their own funds, that they have some ability to move around in areas where they think they can get the most bang for their dollar, but the Board of Education's overall policies have to, I think, preempt site-based council's policies if they're at odds or opposed. And I certainly am hopeful that, and I don't think the legislature intended otherwise, I really don't, but we'll see what the courts say about it. Fortunately, that has not been a practical matter or problem in our system.
Mike, do you have any idea about it?
Well, yes, I think this is another prime example of parental involvement and how important it is to care. As a board member, my responsibility is to the people and the citizens and the parents who have children in this system. And I think only through this parental involvement and the communication skills being opened between the board member and the community and improving those will this thing work. So the site-based decision council is very, very important. I'm happy that we have teachers involved in that along with parents. I think that's most important. And I think they're doing a good job here in Glasgow. However, I think the Board of Education is very important in the administrative end of our school system, and we need to keep our ears and our eyes open to what's going on and listen to our parents and citizens.
Any comment?
I think they've said it all. The teacher involvement is just as important as the parent involvement. And I feel like our teachers have done an exceptionally good job. We just don't really seem to have the kind of problems that you read about in the paper. We have a very close school system and just don't have those type problems.
Now, another question related to the site-based councils and who should have the authority to establish guidelines. Some of the criticism that I hear and I've heard from the school attorneys throughout the state at various meetings is that actually the way your councils are set up now, that if the court should decide that they've got the control that some of them are contending for, that ultimately it means that rather than the school board controlling the school system, it's going to be the KEA controlling the school system, because they'll have 3 teachers as well as a principal on each council and only 2 parents. Anyone care to comment about that one? That's sort of a hot potato, but it's going around.
Well, I think there's some theoretical possibilities there, and I don't think that most site-based councils want that kind of autonomy, and I don't think most of them really want that type of responsibility. But it could happen, and it'll be interesting to see where and when it does happen. Hopefully it won't be Glasgow Independent.
As I understand it, insofar as the legal battle is concerned, and that is now on appeal and it came up from Boone County, you've got the School Board Association on one side and you've got KEA on the other. And
I think historically there's always been a tug of war between those two groups, and I don't expect that to change. The battlefields may change, but there'll always be some opposing views, and but yet I think both of those groups genuinely have the interests of the students at heart, and some amount of debate is probably good and healthy.
In my view, Uhel, that if the decision did come in favor of the site-based councils now, that it might have to go back to the legislature and just see just exactly, have the legislature redefine the intent of the site-based councils. I agree with Mike in that I think our councils here locally are doing a good job. And we haven't, in fact, the lawsuit that has arisen, I think, is the exception rather than the rule around the state.
well, that's true. There's several in the state involving the one aspect of it and another, but I'd say a total of less than 10 in the whole state. Of course, there is some disagreement about the councils in Jefferson County, but that's a separate issue that really does not involve the issue of the control of the school board. It's whether what they've been doing can take the place of what is mandated by the CARA. Another aspect of CARA that is causing quite a lot of controversy in certain places is the first three grades, consolidating kindergarten and the first three grades and so forth, which reminds me of my school days a long time ago when I went to a one-room school. So it doesn't seem so odd to me that that could go on. Based on what I'm hearing from this system, and again, mainly what I'm hearing, it's working rather well in the Glasgow system. What I've heard is, Larry, is that correct insofar as you know?
As far as I know, it's working extremely well. Like I said before, I pop in down South Green quite often, and just to watch the teachers working. I've also been at E.B. Terry watching them. It's amazing. Those teachers are sitting right down there on the floor with those kids, and they're working with all 18 or 20 of them at the same time. All of them are on different levels, and it's amazing to watch them. That's why I can't emphasize enough that it is important for parents to go watch this process. I feel like it's good for the kids. They're obviously learning because of their test results in the 4th grade.
Mike?
Not having a child in the primary, I think the theory is excellent. The theory is such that students who maybe learn at a more rapid pace than another would have an opportunity to excel and have more private instruction and have that privilege to do more. And on the other side of the fence, those who maybe need more help would be able to get more help under this new system. However, I have heard some complaints also about our primary system. I think overall it's working very well, and I think that's due to our leadership in our school system, our principals and our teachers. But again, I think we have to, it's still new, it's young, and I think we have to be very open to change when change is needed, and very open to listening to our parents and our teachers about our primary system. If it's working great and everyone's happy, that's good. Let's just continue to improve. If there are some things that we need to address, then while we're in these early stages, only 4 years old now, I think now is the time that we need to address those and try to improve in any way that we can to help our children.
Well, Uhel, I think I concur with what Mike and Larry have said. Overall, the primary system seems to be working well in our local school system, but I think, once again, this might get back to the purpose of the site-based council. Maybe the primary system works fine in South Green. Maybe it may not work so well at E.B. Terry. Well, this is a situation for the site-based council to intercede and fine-tune that program there and see what can be done or what can be done for that school. I think that's the real value of having a site-based council and addressing these issues on a school-by-school basis.
Dr. Bale?
I think the ungraded primary concept has probably been the most interesting part of CARA, and I think it was probably the area that our faculty was the slowest to buy into. I think they have done an excellent job, and part of the reason for that has been that Glasgow Independent decided early on in CARA that for this to work, it was going to require a great deal of professional development. And I think this is something that people should know and realize that the state funded a rather meager amount of money for professional development, and it was the decision of our board and our superintendent that we should spend extra dollars and for the last 3 or 4 years, we've spent approximately 3 times the amount that the state budgeted for professional training. And I think it's paid off in aces for us in terms of the ungraded primary. I think our teachers are doing a wonderful job, and in fact I think we're almost a model for the state in terms of the success of our ungraded primary. It requires a great deal of work and versatility on the part of the teachers, and I think we're fortunate that we have teachers who have that type of versatility. And I think there's a tremendous amount of room in ungraded primary to set it up any way you want, and there's flexibility there for each teacher and each school to do that, and I think we've done a real good job of it. I'm excited about it.
Another aspect of the CARA program that has been instituted in some parts of the state, I don't think it has here yet, is what I call the after-school social program. Are there any plans for instituting that here?
Absolutely. We applied for it, and again, I think this is an area of tremendous possibilities. Unfortunately, again, only a small amount of money was budgeted for that statewide, and so the Family Resource Center concept is in place in only a few districts throughout the state, the ones that were granted the state money.
Fulton has one, I think, and that has been very successful.
Sure. We have applied for it, and as of yet, our applications have not met with success. However, as you know, and hopefully most of the public realizes, we have converted the old Bunch 6th grade center into somewhat of a family resource center that houses preschool, it houses the alternative learning center, it houses some adult education courses. In fact, that program is now located there. And we also have a full-time person who is there to be a resource for our teachers and parents in terms of trying to acquire information or help coordinate services. So for not having been granted any state money for it, I think we're moving in that direction, and hopefully we'll have some state funds in the next year or two.
What do you think of that aspect of CARA, Mike?
One of the things that I feel is very important, not just in CARA but in life, is mother and dad and child being together as much as possible. And some of the family resource centers that we've talked about, I think are good in that it provides quality time when a child can see a mother and father going over to Bunch and enrolling in some classes in the evening to better their education, and they become a role model for the child. I've been very impressed too with the way our system has worked with Barron County's system in implementing these new programs, and that they work together very well. And I think it's very important that we provide opportunities for children above and beyond just the classroom day. I think one of the biggest challenges in our education is time management. For us to compete with, we read a lot about our American kids and students competing with Japanese, and their amount of time they spend in school. And so I think time management is going to be one of our greatest challenges in the future, and how we manage our time and how we use that time wisely in educating our children.
You have any comments, Larry?
I might add something on our resource center at Bunch. It not only is there for the students and the adults, but it is a great learning tool for our teachers. There are a lot of equipments down there. Although we have computers in school, there are specialized computers down there. There are sign machines, poster machines. Just about any aid that a teacher needs, resource-wise, is there. All they have to do is use it, and most of them are using it. It's been a big asset for the teachers.
Every now and then, subject comes up that under the present laws and the interpretations of the Constitution, you can't do, but there's a lot of pressure brought from various sources from time to time about having prayer in school. Do you think that should be changed? Of course, it's either only two ways of doing it: is a constitutional amendment, or the Supreme Court's going to have to change its decision. You think we should have prayer in school or shouldn't have? Larry, I'll start with you.
I feel like it is totally up to the individual. I believe in prayer. You don't have to pray out loud. A child is in school many hours a day, and a child can pray anytime during that day that he would so desire.
Mike?
I think some of the most special times in my education was at that time of prayer that we had in our elementary schools and all of our schools. At the ball game we would pray. At each day we would pray. And I think we have to be very careful. I'm for prayer. I think we should allow prayer in schools. But we need to be very careful that we don't dictate how and when that prayer is to be made. And because there are many religions. And I think we need to be careful that we don't set some kind of precedent that says, yes, we need to have prayer and everybody has the opportunity to lead in prayer. I think more maybe a moment of meditation during the day and let those people pray who choose to would be a good thing.
Jerry?
I concur with Larry and Mike Uhel in that I think prayer is good. Certainly I would like to see it back in schools. However, you know, we're kind of have mandates against organized prayer by the school itself. So then, like Larry and Mike say, any time during the day is a good time for prayer. But if it's going to detract from the school and become a controversy, as it has in some areas, it really hasn't in Glasgow, then, you know, we need to find, we need to abide by the mandates that we have as laws, and continue on with the education of our young people.
Dr. Bale?
Uhel, I have to make a lot of decisions every day in my work, and I'm glad that this is one decision I don't have to make. I certainly agree that no matter what one's religious background or bent may be, that certainly there can be times of reverence throughout the day, and anyone should feel free to take advantage of that. But I certainly believe in upholding the Constitution and following the law, and I think as a school board that's what we need to concern ourselves with. Uhel, I have one other point. I didn't realize you were going to jump off Kara and end with a hot potato like that. But anyway, I was at a meeting last week, and I think this is very significant concerning Kara. It was a meeting of the Council of Higher Education, and one of the people who got up and testified in front of them was the president of the E-Town Community College. The topic of remediation had come up, and the problem that represents for higher education in our state. And I was very pleased and encouraged to hear him say that this year they see a tremendous difference in the quality of students at the community college level that they are getting. He attributed that to Kara, and he said he felt like that the students entering higher education today as a result of Kara are better prepared, have better thinking skills, and from a practical standpoint for them will require less remediation. I think that's very encouraging, and I told him afterwards I wish he could get that message across to the public.
I think I've seen a similar statement in the Courier or somewhere that's true at the main campus in Lexington, University of Kentucky main campus, that they had noticed the same thing, that the entrance scores were higher than they had been. Gentlemen, I thank you very much. It's been interesting. I've enjoyed it. I think you'll probably admit the time went faster than you thought it would. And the next Glasgow Wants to Know will be on October the 31st, when we will have Congressman Lewis as our guest, and I will be talking with him.